everybody, and welcome back. Well, sometimes videos are not ones that you really want to make, and that happens to be the case with AVCT today. Guys, we were off to an amazing run, hit $2.80 something cents, and boom, literally a 1 minute candle smack down halted. Guys, what caused that? We're going to get into in this video, and we're going to discuss where I think this stock is headed from here. So please remember, nothing I say is financial advice. Always do your own DD and smash that like button for me, please. If you are still holding and bullish on AVCT, let me know in the comments. I'd love to see it. And just so you know, I am still very bullish on AVCT. I am holding and I bought more. All right, guys, so I will warn you, I do have a migraine, and I think it was brought on by this today. So I don't really want to talk about today's move because it really stunk, but it is what it is, guys. And the reality of the situation is that if you were familiar with the filings and read them, then you were aware that they needed to raise funds. It was very clear about that. And the fact that they did this as a private equity offering and not a public offering is very, very good in my opinion. You know, a private placement offering is far better than a public offering, guys. It brings about a different aura, or I don't know how you want to say it, but feeling in the market. So what they did, as much as people want to be pissed, guys, companies need to raise money in order to stay afloat, especially in the market that we are all in right now. Just think about what middle income families are dealing with right now. I mean, a lot of them living paycheck to paycheck. Is a real struggle out there. And it's the same thing for many, many companies. The cost of everything has gone up, guys. Nothing is cheap. Labor's more expensive. Electricity, everything they need to run a business just costs more. They need to raise money. They have no debt. They still have no debt. This is a very, very bullish company, and there's not a whole lot of them out there that, you know, I would put my faith into right now, but I really believe in AVCT. And I'm not saying that lightly, guys. This is not just a trade for me. This is something that I truly believe in, whether or not there is a pending buyout. And it's very clear from the filings that they are looking for a buyer, guys. But also they need to do due diligence to themselves and their shareholders. They have an amazing product with candy, and they shouldn't just give it away, right? So don't get worried about today's offering. I would much rather it at $2.80 something cents than have this breakout, you know, when we're hitting $5, $6, $10. I mean, guys, the higher up we go, the bigger we can drop, right? With something like this. Now, that's not to say there's no risk of them not filing something else. There's always that risk. But guys, the fact that it was only $10 million, that is not a lot of money, okay? And the fact they did it as low as they did, a couple things and questions have come up. You know, if you listen in on the group chats that we do, that Hannah's, you know, so kind to host, and Z Ghost a lot of the times, guys, it's a wealth of knowledge in there. And, you know, Hal's an amazing, like, expert to have in the room that really knows stuff. So if you haven't listened, I highly suggest you pop in there. And yes, if you hear things that are not just talking about AVCT, guys, we can't talk about AVCT for hours and hours a day. There's only so much that can be said, and we use that room to chat in as well. So, but if you have questions, you know, Hannah's very, very good about asking them. And even if you're not a speaker and you message her or you message in the group chat, she follows it and she checks and she makes sure that the questions get answered. So please feel free to pop in there if there's ever something you want to hear. But let's get back to this. Now, obviously it hit that $2.80. And guys, this candle, let me tell you, there was not a lot of time, and most retail investors aren't staring at a news feed waiting for something to drop. It just isn't what happens. So this candle, in my honest opinion, was triggered by either someone that had a heads up or a hedge fund, or the algos that read these filings and react to them very, very quickly, combined with probably a lot of stop losses that just brought it down, because it should have halted way before it did, right? Because that was definitely more than a 5% drop in whatever that minimum time frame is. It was rapid. This was a 1 minute candle that did this, okay? So anyways, it dropped. It tried to get a bounce. Retail was indecisive, couldn't make up a mind. It dropped some more. Guys, it had very, very strong support at the same price that we were at yesterday, $1.60 to $1.65. It just channeled between for the remainder of the day once it hit that point, okay? Yes, it did dip slightly under, and it's funny because Hal was very insistent that he was going to get his shares filled at $1.55, and I think it hit $1.56, so I'm not sure where he ended up getting them. But guys, I do believe that we move to the upside tomorrow, and if not, if we channel sideways, which is also a possibility. However, I think the market will be green based on Netflix having really good earnings. I think it's going to drive the market up, and I think that AVCT will follow once people digest this and realize it isn't as horrible as they made it out to be, okay? And guys, I hate to see people sell at a loss. If you see something like this, your time to sell was when it unhalted. You know, if you were able to sell there and buy back a little bit cheaper, if that was something that interests you, if that was how you wanted to play it, you know, that would have been the time to do it. So now, what are your options? Well, you could buy more lower if you have the funds to do so. That's an option. Or guys, you know, you can wait it out and it will go back up. I am very confident of that. There are still gap fills to the upside. And believe it or not, we made another 1 cent one today. So, you know, it sounds silly, right? But I think that gap was between 215 to 217. So that 216 didn't get filled. It left a little gap. So we have that one. And then we have the one from approximately 315 to 394, I think. So guys, I think that, you know, even though this stunk, when the news comes out that this completes, which is supposed to be by October 20th, which is in 2 days. So on Thursday, when that news drops, then you're going to see a nice run from it. I don't know what causes it, but in general, once they now announce that the completion of an offering is done, if you're in enough plays, you know how this works. Boom, you get that move right back to the upside. Like, okay, you know, those shares were absorbed. Guys, this was from an institutional investor. So different trades have different schools of thought. The way that I was taught is that, you know, institutional investments are bullish versus a public offering tends to be bearish. But of course, yes, in a way, it is still dilution. We haven't seen a filing yet, so I can't tell you what the specifics are. I know that according to this, it says AVCT announces a 10 million registered direct offering and concurrent private placement priced at the market under NASDAQ rules. Shares halted on circuit breaker, right? So AVCT announced it entered into a definitive agreement with institutional investors, keyword investors, for the purchase and sale of 5 million shares. Now, yes, they could turn around and sell them at whatever price they want, unless, guys, there's restrictions in that filing, which we won't know until we see it. But that being said, most companies that invest in a stock aren't there to buy it, you know, for a quick flip. Occasionally, yes, it can happen, but all in all, that's not really how the game works, especially when a stock is hitting its 52-week lows and it's reversing, okay? I don't think that that's what their intention is, although just like you and I, if this stock were to have a squeeze, let's say, yeah, of course they may want to get out of it then. But let me just go through this real quickly with you because there's a couple things I want to point out. So AVCT today announced it entered into a definitive agreement with institutional investors for the purchase and sale of 5 million shares of its common stock pursuant to a registered direct offering at the market under NASDAQ rules. The offering and warrants to purchase up to 10 million shares, the warrants, in a concurrent private placement, the private placement. Okay, so this is an offering with a concurrent private placement, which it's very strange. Is this a separate deal or is this, because it says institutional investors, right? Investors. Or is this just worded really, really badly? It's kind of hard to tell, right? But it says the combined purchase price for one share and one warrant will be $2. the warrants will have an exercise price of $1.80 per share and will be exercisable 45 days following the date of issuance and will expire 2 years from the initial exercise date. Okay, so it'll expire 2 years and 45 days from essentially probably either tomorrow or the 20th, right? If the 20th is the closing, from then. Whenever, I don't think any of us really care the exact date, but I'm just telling you. And guys, they'll be able to exercise them beginning 45 days for $1.80 per share. So they have to buy those for $1.80. We don't know if there's other restrictions. Does it have to be a certain share price? It doesn't say anything about that, okay? So until we see that filing, we don't know for sure. But guys, I think there's some confusion with the 10 million shares. I believe that this is just worded really bad. I could be mistaken and won't know to the filing. But because it says that it was a private placement for the combined purchase price for one share and one warrant, I think the total, guys, would be that 10 million and not 5 million shares and 10 million warrants. I just think it's worded very poorly. Again, we won't know for certain if there's something else mixed into it that we're not seeing, like separate, shares of units sold or something like that. But based on what I'm reading here, I really just think that it's not worded very well and that the total is 10 million shares. But again, this is an institutional investor. Usually those shares do not get counted into the free tradable float. A lot of times, you'll see those separated because they don't just buy and sell them, However, of course, it's dilution in effect because, yes, it adds to the share count. So if you're in this for a buyout and you thought that there was 27 million shares, that whatever the price is, it'll now be divided by 37 million shares, okay? So you have to assume that obviously the bigwigs at this company and the board and stuff, they're all given stock options. They all have investments in this company and purchases they've made of these stocks, right, guys? So they want to get the best price too. They have a lot on the line. So I don't think that we're going to see them keep dropping all these shares if indeed they are selling this company. Will they sell, small amounts like this? Yeah, it's possible because they need to pay the bills in the meantime, right? But guys, I'd much rather have them do it again at $2.80 than at $10. Okay. So, there's always a risk of that happening. We don't know. No one can be certain, but it was very clear in the filings that this was going to happen. To be honest with you, I thought at the earliest it was going to happen next week because I was counting on the NASDAQ listing requirements for the 35 million market cap, which I associated with the warrants and that October 6th date being when those went into effect. But guys, that could have exactly been today. I'm guessing that they wouldn't have done this if it wasn't. So on a positive note, that leads me to believe that the market cap issue is also resolved and we should see that updating coming soon. And heck, it could drop tomorrow and then we have something bullish to move this stock up, okay? So it's not all horrible. Things like this happen and it stinks, but it did make it very clear in the last filing. And like I said, I'd planned to discuss this because I thought we at least had this week with you guys. But we didn't get there. So anyways, it is what it is. So my apologies for not discussing it sooner. For those of you that weren't aware this was even a possibility, it's always a possibility. Remember that. Now, currently our short interest, which I believe is probably accurate at this point because it's not that 224% anymore, guys, which I told you it was going to drop down. It is currently sitting at 52.69% with 1.10 days to cover. And guys, there's 300,000 shares still available for them to short us with a cost to borrow between 22 and actually 22.12 and 22.32%. So 22% cost to borrow. And again, that short volume ratio is in this 48 to 55.98% every single day. So as you can tell with that short volume ratio, they're able to semi-control that price, right? And that I read to you already, but I wanted to go back to this for 1 minute. And you see we are up 3 cents in the after hours, guys. I firmly believe that 160 floor, yes, we did dip slightly below right before close to, I believe, 156. But again, I believe that we are going to start making moves back to the upside. And there is a lot of retail interest in this. Yes, this scared out some, but now that it's said and done, there's no reason why people can't hop back in. And I definitely believe if it's not tomorrow, it will happen on Thursday when we do get notification that the private offering has closed. Okay, so, cheer up. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, it stinks, but guys, we will be trending back up in no time at all. I am fairly confident of that. And have a fabulous night.